I'm always curious how my life would be if I never went to college. I know one thing's for sure though, I wouldn't have come out of college with almost $30,000 in student loan debt at the age of 22. It is just so crazy how much the cost of college can be, especially if you don't get scholarships or grants or anything that lightens the load of the cost of college. I was personally fortunate enough to receive some scholarships as well as some grants to pay for college, but I still needed to take out student loans in order to finish my 4-year degree and get a bachelor's in computer science. What it do, crew? My name is Ver, and on my channel I talk about personal finances and investing, but student loans have been a big part or a big topic on my channel recently just because it does have a lot to do with my personal finances. If you're into that sort of content, don't forget to obliterate the like button and subscribe button. But okay, so $30,000 in student loan debt as well as a bachelor's in computer science. I would be lying if I said my degree was useless and I don't use it in my day-to-day job, but I definitely do. But that brings me to the topic of this video, and I want to talk about my computer science degree. Some of you watching my video may or may not have thought about going back to school to get another degree, maybe in CS or another STEM field, learning how to program through a boot camp, or even self-teaching. Whatever the case may be, some of those decisions might come with costs, some more than others. I wanted to make this video because I have gone through a computer science program at the University of Texas, but I also had a little bit of influence from Mayuko, Jarvis, and Keep On Coding's videos about their degrees, but instead of just describing a computer science degree, I also wanted to touch on the cost and where it gets you. So I do have my unofficial transcript right here, so let's get into the video. Actually, you know what? Give me 1 second, I'm gonna go get something. Alright, so I had to pull this out. Here is my computer science degree, or this is my Bachelor of Science in Computer Science, the actual piece of paper, and it's framed. But yeah, this is what $30,000 of student loan debt gets you. To bring context into the conversation first, is my first major, or what I wanted to major in, was not computer science. I actually started off as undeclared, and I tried for 2 semesters to transfer into engineering. But yeah, so my first year was pretty general. I mean, you know, I didn't take any computer science specific classes. It was all the general rec stuff. So we had principles of chemistry, M408C, which is the engineering track for the calculus courses. I also took a undergraduate studies in US public education, as well as introductory to biology. You know, pretty basic stuff. And then we move on to spring 2011, my second semester there. I actually tried to apply for the engineering school after that first semester, didn't get in, so I needed to get my grades up, and as you saw, it wasn't straight A's. So in my second semester, I took an engineering physics course, so you know, the general physics. I then took M408D, which was the second sequence in calculus. So for other majors or the general track would have been taking 3 semesters of calculus, but I took the accelerated course, the engineering accelerated course, where you only have 2 semesters. Basically, you have 3 semesters compact into 2, so it was like 1.5 and then 1.5. Also, I took a intro to psychology course, which was super fun. The teacher's name was Dr. Salinas. He was super cool, and it made it really easy. The most interesting part of that course was actually not the course material, because I don't remember it, but I do remember having a lot of classmates that were on the football team or the sports team, and I recall one test, or the final test, where I was taking it, within like 5 or 10 minutes, not even 10 minutes, all the football players finished their tests and then walked out of the room, like as if they knew everything. And it was a pretty hefty test, like over 50 questions. After those first 2 semesters, it was before the summer, I actually tried applying to the engineering school again. I didn't get in. And then I had a really good friend of mine that, you know, we were both trying to transfer into the engineering program, and we just looked at each other like,
yo man, I don't think we're gonna get in.
We're like, you want to check out the computer science program over at the College of Natural Sciences? And I was like, yeah, sure. So we go there, we asked for what is the process of transferring into the course, you know, what are the prereqs, do you need these grade requirements? And funny enough, we actually were just handed a piece of paper, not even the full 8.5 by 11 piece, but a half sheet of paper that asked for 3 things, and that was your name, your current major, and the reason why you want to transfer to computer science. We both wrote the same thing. It's really funny. It was, I like computers. All right, so here's where we actually get computer science related courses. The general intro or lower division classes in the computer science program are usually like an intro class and then a data structures class. So in my fall 2011 semester, I took CS 312, which was intro to programming. The teacher in that was actually really cool. His name is Dr. Mitra, and he always said this thing where he didn't want to just teach us to be coders or programming monkeys, He wanted to teach us to be computer scientists, and that's how we always approached our things. So I really enjoyed that class. Oh, I actually took 2 PE classes that semester because I didn't even know you could sign up for PE classes. And since, you know, there was a range of 12 to 18 hours on how many hours you can take, where it's a base price on tuition, I was like, yeah, I'll add a couple hours of classes, and I decided to take gym. I took weightlifting as well as swimming. I took American government for a requirement. There was one really cool course called Jazz Appreciation, and it was a super cool class. I had to walk or travel out to the music building, which was all the way across campus. We listened to jazz music almost each and every session. The teacher, the professor, would play his trumpet sometimes, and I played jazz trombone and wind ensemble trombone back in high school, but I didn't play it out throughout college. So this course kind of, you know, made me miss that musical aspect of my life that was, you know, from 6th to 12th grade. And then I took an information and cyberspace information class. It's not inside the computer science program, but it was just another class to fulfill a requirement that was just within my interests. Moving along here, so I took the second part of the intro to programming courses, which was data structures. There was also a class that was called discrete mathematics. That was called logic, sets, and functions, CS313K. And to be quite honest on that, I struggled in that class a lot. You know, there were proofs, there were logics. At the end, I don't even remember what we learned at the end, but I just remember it was a pretty difficult course for my head to wrap around. You know, in practice, whenever you're doing algorithms and programming, it all made sense in the end, but that was one course that I did have a hard time in. Jeez, sorry, going through this is really, really tiresome, so let me get a sip of this. Come fall, this is where I started taking the upper division computer science courses. So after your intro and data structures courses, you start taking systems architecture and operating systems classes, which is just a level right above the hardware in terms of programming and computer science. Computer organization and architecture, this was more of an introduction to like bitwise manipulation. We did a lot of bitwise exercises. There was some exercises on just learning the architecture of a computer and organization of those things. Honestly, I don't remember that one as much as the operating systems class. So that was compounded with probability and statistics. I did horrible in that course, which when I think of probability and statistics, you know, you'd think it'd be pretty simple, but there was things that I never got, like stars and bars, proofs and whatnot related to that. Oh, and also here, I took the United States History 315K, and the type was in correspondence. The reason why I did that was because I didn't have room in my schedule to fit in the hours that were available for history classes to meet a requirement. So I ended up taking like an extension course where I had to pay like separate out of pocket for that course. So I actually did that remotely. Like I just had to go in twice a semester or twice out of the time out of that course to take a test. There was a midterm and a final. And then there was also CS345 programming languages. It was like a parser, learning how programming languages are composed and interpreted, all that stuff. Honestly, that was just like an upper division course to meet a requirement. I personally think I would have had a better time maybe if I took a database course. But okay, so spring 2013. This is where it got really interesting in school because I took the course CS 439 Principles of Computer Systems. And I gotta say, this class is the hardest class, in my opinion, in the whole curriculum for computer science. It's a lot of material. The concepts are fairly low level. Like you go through the course, you learn how to run a simple program on a small operating system, for example, and then you go throughout the course building on top of that operating system to run, you know, a virtual memory, different ways to manage memory and virtual memory in terms of like round robin. Also, the file system is really interesting there, and then that gets into topics like distributed programming or distributed systems, and then security, cloud computing, how all that stuff works, transactions, and I got a D there. So the funny thing is the professor in that course, his name was Dr. Wallfish. Very great guy. I'll have to say, like, he was a cool guy. He was interesting at times. He was very stern, firm on his things. There was a whole thing where the class was kind of investigated for academic dishonesty. You know, I got a 0 on one assignment due to that whole fiasco, but there were some people who got really hit by that, like a letter to the dean kind of thing. The other courses there, like I could mention CS 378, which is Info Assurance and Security. It wasn't such a programming course, but more of a kind of like an upper division case study kind of course. We looked at security information systems and that stuff. We did papers, but we didn't do a lot of programming courses. I also took an introduction to Buddhism. The previous semester I took an introduction to China, and I did horribly there too, but it was because I had a language requirement. I didn't want to learn a language, but I did take like a cultures or like a language course requirement. Oh, actually, my fault. I was looking at fall 2013. In that fall 2013 semester, you can see I retook that system architecture course. I took it with a different professor, Dr. Norman. She's a great lady, very knowledgeable in distributed systems. Like I believe that's what her whole studies and research is at UT about. She's also same character, very stern, firm in her things. There was also an incident of academic dishonesty. Unfortunately, the case for me and my team that I worked with was because one guy took her course the previous semester and he had all the assignments prior, and then since the assignments don't really change much, that's why we were called into the office, because he basically used the same code that he used the previous semester on one of the hardest assignments and said, yeah, I got this, but that got us there. But fortunately we were all good. I took computer networks, which was also a upper division course elective. The professor there was really cool. His name's Dr. Lam, and he apparently did contributions and work on SSL, or the secure layer of the network stack. Intro to Computer Security. That was a super fun course because we learned about certain algorithms like hashing, symmetric encryption, asymmetric encryption, all related things to that. Yeah, and I took one upper division psychology course called Human Sexuality. Spring 2014, I took CS 361S, Network Security and Privacy. This was also a very difficult course, but we did basically a lot of actual security threats that have come up in the wild, like cross-site scripting, cross-site request forgery, memory attacks, brute force attacks, same origin policy. So knowing that stuff, actually just the awareness of that is really interesting. Like you wouldn't think about it now because a lot of frameworks or websites have protections against that, but it's crazy how SQL injection was also a big one too. Which actually was a really good introduction to a course that I took the fall 2014. I had a Q drop on contemporary issues in computer science. That was gonna be not a programming course, but talking about like ethics and issues around technology and computer science. I ended up dropping it. I do have to point out, CS 373 was a super cool course because it was called software engineering. Glenn Downing is an amazing instructor because he taught us the whole software development lifecycle. We did the course in Python and built a web app on top of Django. The thing is, that course is basically what I do each and every single day at my job, so it was really useful. So if you noticed, I should have graduated that May, but I ended up having to fulfill some last final requirements, like I had a bio lab that I had to take, algorithms and complexity, which is the algorithms course in computer science. Like you have data structures and then algorithms. Real world information security was super dope. Our assignments weren't like programming assignments to write a program, but they were capture the flags. You try to hack a system and you unlock like a hash where you can put into a system to verify like you did that hack correctly. The capture the flags were crazy. I remember I've never done anything like this before, but having that information security, network security class the semester prior helped out here because I learned about cross-site scripting, SQL injection, and all that. And that's exactly what we did in this course, but we were given these sandbox environments to do exactly those types of things. I remember the first assignment a lot of people had a lot of difficulty on, and by sheer luck, I was able to finish that alongside my teammate at the time. I was just like looking at the security logs, the security access logs, similar to like if you are in your job, you're going to be wanting to look at logs and access logs and that. But I looked at it and I was like, there's a certain sequence that people are getting access to this jump box that I'm not able to get to. And I was like, why can't I do that? So basically what I did was I wrote a script, a bash script to kind of simulate that sequence of ports to get access to this box. And funny enough, I kept pressing enter to run that script multiple times, and I finally got in, getting like almost 50% of the assignment. And it was because of this method called port knocking. Never heard of it, never like looked it up, because why would I look that up? And it was the coolest thing ever. There was that, there was also, a SQL injection, there was also website stuff, but holy crap, that was the coolest thing that I learned there. And then at the end of the semester, we actually learned about social engineering. We got to learn how to lockpick. Super fun course. It was taught by the IT department, or the IT security department. Took a mobile computing class. That was super fun. We did it in Android programming, so we learned how to make mobile apps. And then one last class was CS 178. So the one meant it was only 1 hour a week. And it was a seminar class. It was called Longhorn Startup. It was a class where you listen to local entrepreneurs. Like if you're familiar with Austin, there's the Capital Factory. You have Josh Baer, great guy. And he founded that venture at a Capital Factory. He would talk there. Dr. Metcalf, he's worked on projects like Ethernet. The reason why he named it Ethernet is because he wanted internet or data connection over the ether. The whole cost of that was not just $30,000 in student loan debt. Like I mentioned, I got some scholarships, I got some grants, but basically at the time, tuition per semester was on average around $45,000 to $5,000 a semester. So if you do the math a little bit, you have the first semester, $5,000, second semester, $5,000. That's $10,000. Multiply that by the regular 4 years or 8 semesters, you got $40,000 plus my additional $5,000 for the last semester. So a total of $45,000 to go to school. I ended up coming out of school with only $30,000 in student loans because I was able to get scholarships and grants that were around $15,000. But that also doesn't account for, my living expenses, food, rent. I was a college student, so I would go out, put a lot of stuff on credit. It was super bad. The cost of a college degree, just by numbers, is pretty high, even for a state school. And you might be thinking, I was actually out of state, but I got the out of state portion of my tuition waived due to benefits from my dad being in the military. That is my degree. That is a computer science degree from the perspective of me, how much it costs, was it worth it? Probably another video. $30,000 in student loan debt for this to potentially get a job that pays you double that? Yes, and I understand people go to school for certain reasons. They might get a degree that's probably not as lucrative, and that's fine because they're following their passion. But at the end of the day, the cost of a degree, regardless of what you major in, is almost the same. Definitely think about the financial burden and financial decisions you'll have to make around it. And that's kind of what I did. Like I knew I wanted to be an engineer. I was good at math and science. Doesn't reflect in my first 2 semesters, but I did want to major in something that was STEM related. But anyways, thanks so much for watching the video. If you got anything out of this video, don't forget to obliterate the like button, the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you know the next time I post a video on my channel. Find me on Instagram. I post there from time to time. I do have fun there, so have fun with me there. And last, don't forget to check out Millennial Investments by going to millennial.investments in your browser. That's all you have to type in. It's a website with curated content to help you build your wealth. One last thing, hook 'em, reppin' the Longhorns. If you enjoyed the video, learned something, take that and get to work.
Bye.